but but I just know that these are very super intimate things that make joy in my life would be just as acceptable in your life too. I know it's the little things in your life that make the difference between the happiness and unhappiness. And next, when you affirm the object of your desires through prayer, let your imagination see yourself already in possession of the thing that you're going after. Now that, you might say, that takes a lot of willpower, a lot of determination, but if you keep at it, you'll find it's not so hard to do. In the first place, it's easy for me to do that because I never go after anything that I haven't first sold myself thoroughly on the idea that I not only have the right to get it, but that I am going to earn that right by giving something in return. And that's the best salesmanship in the world. When you go out to sell a person an idea or a merchandise or a service, if you know positively that you're going to give him his money's worth and more too before you start, it does something to you that enables you to do something to him, that enables him to, in return, do something for you. It's the very acme of master salesmanship. You know, I've said this, ladies and gentlemen, several times, and at the risk of being boresome to you, I'm going to repeat that if you want your prayers to be effective, don't wait until the time of need to utter them. Build up the habit of prayer when you don't need anything. And what do you pray for then? For what you already have. You give gratitude for what you already have, don't you? Wouldn't it be an interesting thing if I gave you a lesson assignment right now to write down before you go to bed tonight, everything that you have in this world to be thankful for? And I'm giving you that assignment, every one of you, and I want you to carry it out. It's going to be one of the surprises of your life. You may have a lot of things you don't want, but you have a lot of things you do want. Write down a list of them and express gratitude that you have these things that you like. And you certainly can start with the fact that you're associated here in a country where you have freedom of speech, freedom of action, freedom of thought, and freedom of opportunity. Certainly that would head the list. Because in other countries we don't have that much. And then you could come right on down from that and put down all the things that you have to be grateful for, and then start in expressing gratitude every night and every day. Keep your mind open for guidance from within. Now, what do I mean by that, do you suppose? Yes, hunches. You get hunches. Don't be, what is the word I want to use? Disrespectful. Don't be disrespectful of hunches. Treat them with civility. Examine them. And you may find that some of these very unusual hunches that you come are bringing you messages that you need to get you over the hump in whatever it is that you're doing. And when you are inspired by hunches to move on some plan created by your imagination which leads in the direction of that which you desire, accept the plan and act upon it at once. And remember always that there can be no such state of mind as faith without appropriate action. Faith without deeds is dead. And when overtaken by defeat, as you may be many times, remember that man's faith is tested many times, and your defeat may be only one of your testing times. Isn't that an astounding and an encouraging thing to recognize that when you're meeting with defeat, that probably in the eyes of your Creator, you're only being tested to see whether you're a man or a worm. And believe you me, we all go through that testing time. And the ones that survive these tests and come out on top with an abiding faith are the ones that become truly great in life. I don't think there's any doubt in the world but what it's a part of the Creator's plan to see that everybody that amounts to anything above mediocrity must pay the price of undergoing test after test as to his faith. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I see evidence everywhere that that's true. Any negative state of mind will destroy the power of faith and result in a negative climax. Your state of mind is everything. Why do you suppose that in my notes here you notice that I have underscored your state of mind is everything? I underscored for emphasis. Why do you suppose I wanted to emphasize that statement? That's right. That's the only thing you have control over. The only thing in this world that you have control over is your state of mind. And certainly that connotes the fact that the Creator intended that to be the most important asset that you have, and it is, because with the use of that mind, you can project it into any objective or to the attainment of any end you choose. Your education, your background, your nationality, your creed has nothing whatsoever to do with your ability to achieve. It's the state of mind that you maintain. That's the thing that determines how and what and when you achieve. To me, that's the most profound thing in all of the knowledge of mankind. The most profound of all knowledge is the fact that the humblest person can take possession of his own mind. He can color it any way he chooses. He can project it into high places or into the gutter. He can make it a success or he can make it a failure. Just the change of his mental attitude changes from success to failure almost instantly. A burning desire is the sort of material of which faith is created. Do you know what a burning desire is? That's right, obsessional desire. Obsessional means a desire that takes possession of you, obsesses you. There are a lot of desires in the world, but they're not burning desires, and they're not obsessional desires, and most people in their whole life never express or never experience an obsessional desire for anything. We start out with hopes, not too definite, but faint hopes for things. Then wishes. Everybody wishes for a lot of money without having to work for it. Well, maybe not everybody, but of course my students don't. But a lot of people do. Most people, I'll say, wish for things. Wish for a Cadillac when they're driving a Ford. If you want a Cadillac car and you make up your mind to have it, get out and see that the men under you or the job that you're holding, see that you put into it that which will entitle you to a Cadillac car. But if you don't want a Cadillac car, the chances are you drive a Ford or something else the rest of your life. You have to want things. You have to want them with a burning desire, and then you have to do something about that burning desire. What is it? Action. You've got to start in right where you stand, showing that you do have faith in your ability. Start right where you stand with action. Now, here's a lot of examples of men of achievement. I'm not going to go over them. You know them. But there is one down here that I particularly want to call your attention to, that of Miss Helen Keller, who believed that she would learn to talk despite the fact that she had lost the use of her speech, her sight, and her hearing. Can you imagine that? Lost the use early in life of her speech, her sight, and her hearing. She couldn't hear, she couldn't see, and she couldn't speak. And yet, did you know, of course you do know, that Miss Helen Keller became one of the best educated women in the world. She's in contact with more public affairs and civic affairs and conditions all over the world than the 9/10 of the women who have all of their senses. Isn't it an astounding thing? And all she has to go by is the vibration. If you speak to her, she puts your fingers up to her lips, and she can tell what you're saying by her fingertips. Entirely by vibration. Think with a woman with a handicap of that kind all the way through life, getting joy out of life, rendering useful service, making speeches. She's learned after a fashion to talk. Doing a great work where the majority of people would have settled for a tin cup and a bunch of lead pencils on a street corner with any one of those afflictions. While I was on the staff of Franklin D. Roosevelt, I passed at the corner of Pennsylvania Avenue and the street running by the White House. Every day I passed a man sitting there with a tin cup and some pencils. I became acquainted with that man. He had lost the use of his legs. He had the same affliction as Franklin D. Roosevelt, exactly. And it happened at about the same time. And I found out that he had even a better education than Franklin D. Roosevelt had. But there he was, out there with a tin cup and pencils, trying to eke out a living by begging. There was just a block away, there was the man with the most important and responsible position in the whole world, running a great nation, who also had lost the use of his legs, but he hadn't lost the use of his brain. He hadn't lost confidence in himself.